My name is Jen Hassel. I'm the Executive Director here at the Chamber of Commerce, and we'd love to welcome Ben Cares from City Hall and the Housing and Community Development to share some information about the reimagining of Broadway. So we're really excited for this information. This will be shared via video, but we encourage people to please come to these meetings in the future. There's a lot of important information that's shared. There's a lot of work that goes into these presentations, and if you want to be part of the movement, part of the new Broadway, and have input, please make sure to make these meetings or fill out the questionnaires that are sent through the neighborhood and the community. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Ben.
Thanks, Jen, and thanks again everybody for showing up. So we appreciate Downtown Broadway has been a very impactful project for the business community and for the residents of the Downtown Broadway district. You know, as you've heard, it's very necessary that we did that utility work. We'll talk through a little bit about the fact that that's wrapping up, and then what we're going to talk about is basically the next phase, which is going to be the surface work. And so that's going to include things like the sidewalks being replaced, milling and paving, which means that the entire surface of the sort of asphalt paved area will be replaced, freshly line painted. There'll be some bike lanes introduced. I believe most of the places that there's already the bus and bike lane, the bike lane will be basically replicated in the surface work. We'll also be replacing lighting features and then landscaping. So trees and expanding sort of the bump out areas and the sidewalks to just create a more vibrant downtown district, and that aligns closely or very closely with the Reimagining Broadway initiative, which is an initiative that's been going on, I believe, since around 2017, where the community came together to visualize how can the Downtown Broadway district be enhanced, how can we beautify it further, how can we make it a more inviting place for people to walk and bike and use their cars. So we recognize that it's a very vibrant community down here. There's a lot of stakeholders involved, so I know that many of you will probably have questions during the presentation. If we could hold off on questions until I'm finished going through the slides, I'll be more than happy to go back to slides and to take your questions. We'll also circulate a sign-in sheet so that we can grab everybody's emails, so that if there is something that comes up that we're not able to answer right away, we'll follow up with you via email, and that's just a great way just to showcase that you're wanting to be involved, wanting to receive updates, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, I will go through the slides. So I'm here, I'm the Director of Housing and Community Development. I'm joined by my Deputy Director, Emily Granoff, and I'm also joined by Omar Miranda, who's our Civic Design Strategist. So and Emily and Omar's taking care of Julia in the back there.
She should make a guest appearance.
Between the three of us, we've got a lot of expertise in sort of managing construction projects. I've been doing it for around 7 years as a planner, and then working for the town of Reading and the city of Chelsea. We see a lot of the impacts that construction projects have. We also see the improvements that they bring to the community. So the Housing and Community Development Department is really going to be your point of contact for this next phase of the project. Before it was the Department of Public Works, since they were handling the utility work, but we want to be available to the downtown business owners and residents whenever they need. So this is really sort of the trifecta that is going to be overseeing a lot of the engagement and the day-to-day once work gets started. We're here today just to showcase to you the plans, talk a little bit about sort of the construction methods that'll be happening, the timeline, some of the funding sources if you're interested, but mostly this will be a short presentation, and what we really want to get is feedback so that we can apprehend concerns, address those today or address those later, via email if we're not able to answer them at tonight's meeting. So as you know, we've worked on the Downtown Broadway utilities. As a part of that full project, we will come in and do the surface work. Again, that's your sidewalks, the roadway, line painting, lighting. There's some pedestrian sort of plaza areas that will be expanded in and around the City Hall area and also throughout the downtown corridor. The project limits are City Hall Avenue, which is that street that sort of wraps around City Hall with Washington and Broadway, all the way down to the corner where the Dunkin' Donuts is, so William Street. And it will basically follow the corridor of Broadway, wrap around City Hall, and then some of the side streets, a little bit into those side streets, is where we anticipate the construction will be occurring. So we've got Chelsea Square at the end, we've got William Street, we've got City Hall, Bellingham Square. As a part of this project, we'll be enhancing aspects in and around City Hall, and then we'll also be looking at some of the areas that are close to Chelsea Square to create more plaza spaces. For those of you that were maybe here a couple of weeks ago or had seen it, we're also designing some improvements to Chelsea Square here. But significantly, this intersection is going to be fully redone at the Bellingham Square area. That slip lane, where you can kind of curve around City Hall, will be eliminated, and we'll be expanding basically the City Hall Plaza area. So a lot of this project is trying to expand areas where pedestrians can congregate and to give it more of that downtown vibe instead of it being sort of a pass-through for vehicular traffic. So we're looking forward to that, and we feel like that's going to bring greater foot traffic to the downtown business district, and it's just going to beautify and enhance a really important corridor of the city. So phase one was the utility reconstruction. They did water, sewage, drainage, fiber optic improvements. Quite a hefty price tag on that. That's nearing completion. If you've seen the city manager's communications recently, that is wrapping up at the end of this month, which is a month ahead of schedule. That we're really excited that we're able to wrap that up quickly. To sort of talk a little bit about the phase two project, again, that'll be the surface improvements, again, sidewalk, bus stop improvements, traffic signal installation, pedestrian safety measures. Some of the intersections will be freshly signalized, and then we'll have flashing beacons at others. This will help manage traffic flow. The goal is to accommodate pedestrian movements and to try and reduce congestion where possible, but just sort of bring better efficiency to the corridor so that people can navigate it in any mode, whether that be on foot, ADA accessible sort of improvements, as well as those that are potentially driving through, using the bus or a bike or other types of modes. This is a Mass DOT funded project. That means that the timeline and schedule we're heavily beholden to Mass DOT and their design review process and all the things that need to happen before we can say we're ready to basically advertise this, which means that a construction contractor can respond to those bids, can take on the work and begin that work. So right now we're in the design process. That's wrapping up in 2026. We anticipate that that will be wrapped up either at the end of this calendar year or just at the beginning of it. And then we'll have to move through some processes where we need to analyze the corridor and see which property owners we may need to coordinate with in order to access certain parts of their frontage to basically pour those sidewalks up to the frontage of their businesses. So all of that design and that coordination with property owners does take some time. So we are targeting an advertisement date of November 2026. Right now what I've heard is actually 11/30/2026, so really like December 1st of 2026. That's going to give the downtown businesses quite a bit of time to sort of take a breath, sort of get ready for that next phase of the construction project. And what we anticipate is about a 2-year timeline for the surface work. Just to sort of discuss a little bit about the construction methodology. With the utility work, it's much more impactful, I think, than the surface work. Not to say that the surface work isn't impactful because we're talking about digging up sidewalks in front of businesses. Ramps are always provided to the businesses as a temporary measure. They have to sort of help pedestrians navigate the sidewalk area. We typically do that in chunks and phases so that it's not like the entirety of the corridor is all ripped up at once. Milling and paving does take a few days to get done at the end of the project. They do need to sort of chew up all of the pavement material, raise those sort of utilities in the street, and then actually do the paving itself. But I think that it is impactful, but I think less impactful than the utility work because that requires full lane closures for weeks on end. They're kind of all over the place sort of getting it done. You probably had that experience if you were paying attention to the utility work in downtown Broadway over the last couple of years. So we work between the City of Chelsea, Mass DOT, and the MBTA to make these improvements. Some of the improvements that we'll be making is reinstating the bus and bike lane. That's a permanent installation that was voted on by City Council, so that will be coming back. We will be doing those sort of enhanced bus areas. In some cases, those will be elevated bus stops where the bus is actually able to pull up directly to the stop. And rather than the bus, sometimes you hear it go like shh, and it goes down. That's called kneeling. You may not have to do that. What that does is it helps people that are in wheelchairs easily get on and off the buses. So we try to improve the efficiency of that bus route. The 111 bus route that runs down downtown Broadway, among other routes, is one of the most highly utilized MBTA bus routes in the state. So we do want to incentivize that. We want to get more people on buses, getting them out of their vehicles, doing that mode shift. That all helps us with our air pollution and sustainability goals and just trying to get people using public transit more often. So some other priorities for redevelopment is just to make the Broadway-Washington Ave corridor greener and cooler by increasing infrastructure and urban tree canopy. So some of those expanded plaza spaces will allow for more tree plantings. In some cases, materials are used that are a bit lighter in color so that we can sort of reduce that urban heat island effect. And in general, we're trying to sort of beautify the corridor by offering better vegetation, more beautification. We're also trying to, of course, like I said, increase accessibility with multimodal transportation. But ultimately, it's a sort of safety initiative. This corridor has many what we call crash clusters. That just means that on average, compared to other parts of the city and of the state, there's more frequency of crashes, severe crashes, maybe non-severe crashes. But many of the intersections up and down Broadway do comprise those crash clusters. And that includes vehicles, that includes pedestrians, and that includes bicyclists. So this is, by and large, a safety improvement, but it's also an aesthetic improvement to downtown Broadway. This part is always a little bit clunky. I will walk sort of quickly through some of the plans. We will put this on the website, so if you want to look at the plans in greater detail, maybe depending on where you live or where your business is, we can absolutely do that. I'll get through these and then we actually zoom in on some of the intersections, but starting on William Street, so this is sort of the southern end of the Broadway corridor, we will be reinstating that bike lane here. We will be putting in a flashing beacon at Everett and Cross Street. We will be having the bus and bike lane reinstated. As you can see, the bump outs that we have been doing, sort of where we've taken some of the crosswalks and made them shorter at key intersections, those will be happening. For many of the intersections, we've actually already done that through some of the bus improvements that the MBTA did a few years ago. So none of that is really a new configuration, but it was newer as of a few years ago. But what that does is it helps bring those sidewalks closer together so that people have more opportunity to sort of be visible when they get into the roadway. Maybe as a pedestrian, you've been on the downtown Broadway corridor, and sometimes it can be tricky. It can be tricky sort of navigating that intersection. For those that are highly frequented, we'll have signalization where there'll be a pedestrian signal phase. But for the intersection I just showed, and for this intersection, there will be flashing beacons with preference for pedestrians to be able to cross at key crossings. So right here, that's one of those yellow triangular like flashing beacon signals. So you can hit that button and then you can safely traverse the street. A major change is going to be the intersection of Hawthorne Street, Bellingham, Broadway, 5th Street, Washington, and Broadway. We are fully reconfiguring that intersection. I'm sure many of us have navigated that intersection in all types of modes of travel, and it is quite challenging. What we're actually doing is we're trying to eliminate traffic that's using up and around City Hall as sort of that boomerang to get south in the city. People that live in these neighborhoods often have to trickle into this street, and then they have to come around City Hall in order to go south, just because of the way that the streets flow. So in the new format, this stretch of Broadway that the Dunkin' Donuts is right about there, I use those as landmarks because people tend to know where those are. But right there, City Hall's right here, this is actually going to become two-way. So if you're familiar with it today, it's one way with 2 lanes. And so what that will allow for is contraflow traffic that eliminates people coming around this way to get down. You'll be able just to come directly south along Broadway and continue onward without having to come down City Hall Avenue, getting stuck in traffic in Fay Square up here, and coming around. So that will really improve the efficiency of the corridor. And then we're reconfiguring many of the pedestrian phases and adding in new crosswalks in this intersection. So all of this will work together to make it a lot easier to traverse. We paid a lot of attention to how people currently use that intersection. There's a lot of people jaywalking today, so we're trying to prioritize pedestrians while also making the flow of vehicular traffic a lot more simple, and then adding in that bike infrastructure to accommodate those folks. There's a blue bike station here, this blue bike station all the way down at the end of Broadway, and we've noticed an uptick in bicycle usage in the city of Chelsea, so we feel that this is accommodating all of those needs. Expanded sort of plaza areas here and in and around the City Hall area. Those will be programmed, landscaped, so it'll really look a lot nicer around those areas. This is just a zoom in of that example of that rectangular rapid flashing beacon. Some of the intersections, we're tightening those crosswalks as I had mentioned. This will be those flashing red, yellow beacons. We've relocated crosswalks in some cases to be closer to the intersection so that we have a much tighter flow of traffic in there, because sometimes when crosswalks are located further from intersections, people have already accelerated and it's a little bit difficult for them to apprehend that there's going to be pedestrians crossing there, so that's a safety improvement. In this case at 3rd Street, there's a full re-signalization of the intersection itself, so that will help with managing much of the traffic that flows through here. And again, there's that zoom in of the fully reconfigured intersection. Probably a little bit difficult to internalize right now. So if you do have questions, I really recommend that you take a look at the presentation on the city website. We'll make sure that it gets up there. Some of the format here in that bi-directional area. So again, this is City Hall. This is where that monument is, kind of the lawn spaces. That lawn space outside of City Hall, so that's this side of the street, Grove Street, Shirtless Street. So this will greatly improve, and then you'll see there's actually some dedicated bike infrastructure here. We're able to sort of tighten this up so that this crosswalk is significantly shorter. It's nice when we have the crossing guards around here, but without them, I've navigated these intersections and it is quite challenging as a pedestrian today. So these will be some really solid improvements that we're making there.
Yeah. And just to interject, as Emily knows and Ben knows as well, I did some work with Transportation for Mass and Smart Growth America last year for 6 months. And the area, and I live right there in the area in front of my home. In the crosswalk, there have been 31 pedestrians hit.
Oh, wow.
It's a very tricky spot.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just an example of what Fay Square will look like. So this is where the fire station is today, to orient folks. So you know that that intersection there is like this ocean of pavement, basically. You've seen that we've put down maybe some of that red paint to help kind of guide people. So this new alignment will actually be a full curb line. So people won't even be able to drive on top of that this time around. We've really simplified it. And you can see that this crosswalk here is substantially shorter and it's also been moved. So those crosswalks are really, really tough. And again, the amount of foot traffic that this area sees, not just from people that are frequenting the downtown businesses, but school-aged children, that's really like who this project is for. Those safety improvements are for them, because there might be crossing guards in the morning, but there's a lot of kids on foot after school that are letting out from Williams School and from the Chelsea High School. But also just, we're seeing a lot of people coming into our downtown, and so we need to accommodate that.
That is the yellow.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
You go first.
Is the yellow, so that yellow is actually going to be like hard concrete, like something that people can step on?
It'll be landscaped. So it might be like, there'll be sidewalks,
Yeah.
but then like behind the sidewalk, there'll be like landscaping and like maybe some type of paver type situation.
And that's what's currently red in front of the 911 booth?
And the fact that the front of City Hall will be two-way will alleviate the number of cars that now are forced to turn right and go around. So that will also help a lot.
because you're already getting a lot of Washington Avenue traffic that's coming down this direction. But I also think that this Washington Avenue traffic might be people that are trying to get south that don't want to come down Broadway, come down City Hall, and then come this way. Now they can just do a straight shot down Broadway. So it's quite a simplification of that area.
Yeah,
A
I think
lot of
that's-
it, oh, sorry. A lot of that traffic, because I live in that area, are people coming off of the Parkway on 16 and coming from Prattville. So, yeah.
And another significant change will be the fact that you'll be able, in front of what is currently Phoenix Charter Academy, coming down Hawthorne toward City Hall, you'll be able to turn left on to
No, that's a great
Fifth
point,
Street.
so.
If you wanted to,
sorry.
if someone was going to get on the Tobin Bridge, where do you want cars to go?
Oh, if someone's gonna,
Like
from
say
where?
you're coming from St. Rose's.
Okay.
Down Fifth, right?
So
Yeah.
they would come
Yes.
down here and they would take a right onto Fifth Street.
Yes.
So they would now be able to come down Broadway and take a right onto Fifth Street. And then
Okay.
they could access the on-ramp. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
So,
now
but,
they-
I mean, when
They can do that now, but they
back-
go behind.
back to
You said
City
St.
Hall.
Rose, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
can do it now.
So if you're,
Well,
so,
sorry, we go back to the City Hall.
yeah, yeah.
You still have to cross Washington, and you can even take the little small.
Let's
The
zoom
little
out a
street,
little bit.
so you can still do that.
Yeah.
Okay. City Hall.
And we
Now
St.
this
Rose.
is two-way,
Yep.
so then I'll cut down.
You come this way and then you come that way.
Okay, so
To
you
get
don't
on
want
the
They
to
were gonna focus.
incentivize people to go that way,
They-
to stay off.
And they
I don't think that they would, because you have to come this way around and then either come down Chestnut Street and onto Fifth Street. I think this way will be a lot more direct.
Go on every.
Okay, all right, I say,
Understood.
I would
There's
assume like whatever is gonna be safe for the kids,
totally.
all you need is signage and, you know, incentivize people to go one way versus
Yeah.
another.
Yeah. And you know, I mean,
Because of our work on the
we've
project.
we've adapted infrastructure through time. I think that this is a very well-designed plan. Is it going to satisfy every single congestion concern? Is it going to satisfy every potential safety concern? There's also an educational component with everything, right? Safely navigating your crosswalks, looking left, looking right, training crossing guards. It's everything that we've been talking about, and for some of you that know, we've just recently done a Safe Streets for All plan with a federal grant, which has a Vision Zero policy, which is basically zero pedestrian or zero deaths in any type of mode of traffic. And that's design, right? But that's also public education. That's also people respecting the rules of the road, right? So just keep that in mind. You know, not everything can be perfectly designed every single time, but we feel really confident in what's been presented so far.
And if anyone wants to see the Vision Zero project, on Thursday, there's a subcommittee on public safety at City Hall at 5 o'clock, and the consultant is going to be giving a Vision Zero presentation to the city council members on the subcommittee for public safety.
So that really concluded my presentation. We started to do some Q&A, so that's what we want to open up the floor for. We will be, if we can't answer your question tonight, we promise to get back to you. So I want to make sure I lead with the facts, and when I don't know the answer, we will make sure that we write that down. Please make sure that you've signed in if you have not already signed in. Is that the sign-in sheet on the table right there?
Yeah.
And that's been circulated to everybody so far?
Can we pass it up this way?
Can I ask the first question?
Yeah.
So the chamber has been privileged to be able to help some of the business owners with the storefront improvement.
Yep.
And it's been a blessing. And so my question is, with the trees
Yep.
and the beds for the trees. Love trees, love what they add to the community, but a lot of them are overgrown. And then the beds for the trees, littering has really been a huge
Sure.
problem, especially in the Broadway corridor
Yeah.
and dog feces.
Yeah.
So how does this, what are the plans to address
Yeah.
that? If we're beautifying Broadway, we want to be able to maintain it. Is there a plan to address that?
Absolutely. What we've handled thus far is securing that funding. We've designed it. We're going to construct it and implement it. And similar to the meetings that we've had about open spaces in our public areas, we all need to sort of work together on cleanup events. I know Phoenix Academy just did one tonight. We've got the beautification committee. I know that Kate is working really hard with the DPW staff and some of her new leadership to stand up better operations and maintenance plans, just to keep everything tidy and clean and managed and manicured. I really believe that public investment leads to that. When you move into a new space or you've recently renovated something, you're like, let's keep it nice. And I think everybody can share that mentality, and I think we will carry that forward. But we still rely on, the business community, the chamber, whatever ad hoc Main Streets organizations are existing in the city of Chelsea to keep us on our toes to make sure that we're delivering on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
I have a question. So is there a way that we can inform like the kids of the Clark and maybe of Phoenix, like maybe telling them, oh hey, like this is our plan for Broadway, this is our plan of the area that you basically walk through every single day is gonna look like, and maybe get input from them because they're the ones that are walking it every single day, just to see what they would think or like how they could change anything or, yeah.
I think there are still some opportunities for engagement to think about some of the open space areas that we're planning. The way that the roadway project gets designed is by Mass DOT and their engineering team. So we rely on their expertise for at least the transportation engineering component.
Okay.
We are working on, like I had mentioned, the Bellingham Square area, which is all of the City Hall area and those bump outs and some of that. I think preparing a communication to the Chelsea Public Schools to sort of let people know that the changes are upcoming next year when the construction is starting is a great idea. We want to educate people about the changes, and people are always welcome to submit feedback.
Yeah.
It's always tricky in design processes, like when is the last time that we can change something, and especially for a roadway project, like there's the stuff that is just the nuts and bolts transportation engineering. Then there are some places that I think input can be added to. I know that before I got back to the city, there were a few other public engagement meetings, but it's always tricky to reach every single person. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
It's well taken. And I think we can always prepare communications just to let people know that the changes are upcoming and see what feedback we get on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor, yeah.
So I know you mentioned that, a lot of the schedule is, in coordination with the state.
Yeah.
You mentioned that likely construction will be starting on December 1st.
Advertisement date, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll take a couple of months to sort of get that bid process done, get a contractor on board, and then probably what would happen is during those winter months, they would start doing some demolition of targeted areas where they can start in earnest in the spring. That's why it's a 2-year time frame, because the surface work in particular relies on appropriate weather conditions to be able to pour the sidewalks and actually do the paving. But what else were you wondering about the schedule?
I think that's perfect, just because I thought, starting construction during the holidays would be very tough, but, knowing that that's just the advertisement, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, and for some inside scoop on that, when we accept the bids, we let the contractor know when an ideal time is for them to start.
Nice.
So in other types of capital infrastructure projects, we've had to do them during school break, or we've had to stagger them to start a certain time. So we can certainly be accommodating within that month of December when all of that holiday shopping is happening. I think that's a very good point, and it's one that I would have expected to come up, so thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Yeah, I know there was some talk about moving the bus stop that's across from City Hall away from the monument and perhaps in front of the public library. Do you have any reports from the MBTA about that?
This bus stop that's, is it here today currently?
Yeah.
It's, yes, it's
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all.
right
It's
across
on the
from City
corner.
Hall.
yeah, it's on the corner of Sugar and Broadway, which would be right above here.
This bus stop? that's-
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that bus stop is currently slated to remain there.
Oh, it is, okay, because we've heard more than one story about that.
I will,
We'll see.
you know what, as Ben
Let's
said,
confirm it.
we will take that back and
I
confirm
can't,
it.
I
If you
honestly,
could.
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah,
We will email you.
Thank you
We'll
so
let you know.
Big question. How many parking spots do you lose?
So when we started doing those curb extensions that I had mentioned that happened a few years ago, we did have, I think, like a net loss across the corridor, and you can't quote me on this. And I actually tried really hard to find that exact factoid because I knew it was going to come up at this meeting tonight. So I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. Here's what I remember from previous meetings. It is a net neutral loss. In some locations, you're looking at a loss of between 3 spaces to 4 spaces in any given block. But accumulatively across the entire corridor, I believe it is a net neutral parking loss. Because we were actually adding many parking spots to the Bellingham Square area. But that's across the whole project area. So in some cases like CVS, for example, when we had to do those curb extensions, I believe they lost maybe 1 or 2 spots when that happened. But again, the trade-off of the parking spot is the pedestrian improvement. So there's always that cost-benefit analysis, right?
Like say, you know, if you're running errands on foot along Broadway, that's great. But if it just de-incentivizes people to come downtown and run errands
Totally.
if they can't.
I completely
get parking.
understand.
So if we want to support the local businesses, I don't know, I mean, maybe there needs to be a survey or something to make sure we're accommodating that need. Or maybe creating some satellite parking areas that everyone knows about and that are easy to get in and out of.
Yeah. I think refreshing a parking study in the downtown or looking at old parking studies to see like, is there satellite parking? Obviously right now, a lot of that parking under the Tobin Bridge is occupied by Mass DOT while they're doing those enhancements to the bridge structure. So that certainly comes to mind. But everywhere I've worked, downtown Reading, Massachusetts, downtown Chelsea, Somerville where I live, like this is a concern. There are trade-offs when we do this type of work. I completely hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, we've been encouraging people to live without their automobiles for years. It's just that we're in this horrible, awkward stage.
It is awkward.
And it's just like one more thing that makes life even more undoable.
I do understand.
I think we need to slow down on getting rid of parking spots.
I think every year, we see more population growth, more density in the downtown. I think creating a vibrant district where it's safe to walk and to do these different types of modes, there's something to be said about the activation and the number of people that you're able to accommodate with that infrastructure versus some of those spots that may be lost at those intersections. It nets out at some point, I think. But it's something that's difficult to track, and I completely understand. And I know that many people probably today come to downtown and park their cars and rely on parking their car to be able to use some of these businesses. So it's not a new problem. I don't think it's going to go away, but we'll do everything that we can to sort of net it out.
We also have the best bus system.
We do, and we're the second densest city in Massachusetts, right? And we want our downtown district to become vibrant and walkable, and we want people to want to park at that satellite area and walk down to the downtown district rather than the parking being, immediately there, which is certainly an amenity. But I think over time it's harder to retain that with sort of the changes that the city is experiencing.
Okay. One other question, I don't know if you got into this with the DOT, but coming off the Tobin Bridge at 4th Street, making that a little safer for both the driver and the pedestrian.
Yeah.
Is that something that you got into in this?
So for people that, I'm sure many people know that there's sort of a veritable kind of go-kart ramp off of the Tobin Bridge. I take it every single day actually to get here, and I agree with you. That's trickier because that's Mass DOT owned infrastructure. When they make those improvements to that off-ramp, they may be able to accommodate and change that. It's really challenging. That's such a short runway. So even if you signalize that intersection, backing up onto Route 1 is definitely like a big concern. And there's not a way to create like another lane on the right to sort of create. So the way it is today is almost like, unfortunately and oddly, the safest version of it, unless we put like, more crash pads or something, but it's just tricky. It's
One
very tricky.
simple thing
Yeah,
would be
please.
better signage
Okay.
on the post, so
Yeah.
that people know that there's a
Yes.
right hand exit coming up.
Yeah.
Because you have people trying to pass out of the
Totally.
right lane, and it just makes it more pressure.
Yeah,
We'll write that down and we can, let District 6 Mass DOT engineers know about that.
And
So,
beautification as well. That area has been a really messy area, and it is the first, well, it's the second exit into Chelsea, but it's an exit into Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I think that it really, DPW has been fantastic about trying to get in there. It's very dangerous
It
to
is.
clean, but they do it even though it's Mass DOT,
Yeah.
but it is a mess, and it is a terrible, terrible thing for people who are coming into Chelsea to see.
It's all
Yeah.
about perception.
awful.
right?
It
And
is.
so for us
Awful.
to be able to change the narrative on how people see Chelsea,
Absolutely.
you definitely have to focus on the on-off ramps, because that's the first,
it's a gateway.
It is.
it's not even,
It
it's,
is.
it's the first impression they get of Chelsea when they get off of an exit.
Yeah.
So those two exits, Beacon Street and 4th Street, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and you can't tell people what to have in their yards.
Yeah.
But maybe
It's such a
there's a way
smorgasbord of, like,
to help
Mass DOT
co-pay for a fence.
property and
Well,
private property.
A
and-
fence with the slats going
Yep.
through the fence is an
Yep.
easy solution to those vectors.
Just for beautification reasons alone.
Totally heard.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, hi. I'm so sorry, you may have already said this, but does the work on the sidewalk with the work on the road will go at the same time?
So they wouldn't be at the same time. So typically they'll do the sidewalks first before they mill and chew up all of that material and pave it. So those are usually separate. Yeah.
So, and how you planning to accommodate with the business owner
Yep.
any question of customers coming in, coming
Okay.
out, deliveries coming in, coming out, which
Yes.
they come in between
Yeah.
the time of the work, which between, I can say 8 and 4.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you're planning to do that with the customer, with the business owner.
We usually lock in a resident engineer that's on site that's helpful in sort of liaising and talking with the business owners. So for context, Division Street, which is just behind Broadway, and Cherry Street, I actually managed Division Street when I was the planner in the department. I'm the director now, but I remember needing to coordinate the sidewalk improvements with the individual businesses. So we'll do the same thing. We'll offer temporary ramps when needed. But luckily, when you sort of dig out the sidewalks, it's a matter of weeks rather than it being a matter of months that the sort of utility infrastructure, for example, might take place. So it is an impact. It does get coordinated individually with the business owners. There will be an impact. What we try to do is make it that as short a time period as possible, offer temporary accommodations to allow people, like the customers in and out of the businesses, and then try to coordinate with those types of delivery schedules. And where we can't perfectly coordinate that, we try to give plenty of notice so that we can say, hey, in a few weeks we're gonna be in front of your business. So maybe at those points they try to sort of coordinate those deliveries differently. But myself and Emily and Omar and the engineers that are actually boots on the ground, their job is to help do that level of
So
coordination.
are we gonna have like a specific number to call if we have question, if
Well-
we wanna coordinate with the delivery coming or something like that?
We'll probably do something similar to what we did with the utility work, which I believe was construction@chelseama.gov. So we'll have inquiries go to that email, and then we'll try and do that. We can also try and arrange, we're gonna be doing a lot of engagement with the property owners along the corridor because we need to do some, we need to communicate with them about needing to sometimes access some of their, like for example, like you might have like a stoop in your business, you own that stoop, but we need to be able to pour the concrete up to it.
Yeah.
So at every one of those instances, we have to coordinate with the property owners, so we'll be building a list of contacts, I believe, that we can also leverage to do that coordination. So hopefully it'll be more two-way, but when not, construction@chelseama.gov will be the go-to for those types of inquiries.
Okay. That's a question for the email. What about the phone number? Is there a phone number or?
The phone number will very likely be either the resident engineers when he or she drops off flyers, or it will be the either 311 number or another city hall phone number for those types of inquiries. But For those that need to be coordinated with very specifically, they'll have probably a higher touch opportunity. But we try to make sure we like control some of the way that the communication comes into the city, so we can manage it, because there's only a few of us that are overseeing it. Yeah.
So no phone number that we know right now, but we're still like a little more than a year out from even advertising the project. So we will come back and make sure we're talking to everyone individually.
Another aesthetic question, I know that all the trees have boards on them to protect them, and I guess I am surprised that, I'm grateful for the business community, especially that there is a year of a break, but that is a year of those things remaining.
Yeah.
Like they dug up in front of our home, so it's just horrible looking. So we need to just live with that for a year.
So Kate and her team came through and paved out and smoothed out what they could. It's very difficult to make something look pretty before it's getting its full makeover, right? Because even something as simple as like the line painting, for example, or even like doing any of like the sidewalk fill-ins, we're talking about $100,000s up to like $1 million, right? So we try to be thoughtful about spending taxpayer dollar money on the aesthetics, but we also recognize that the aesthetics are really important to the business community.
And homeowners.
And homeowners, absolutely. So it'll be a year of ugly, followed by some really great improvements, and then when we're done with this, we'll have done that utility work and the surface work, and we won't have to touch Broadway for quite some time.
We'll have to have a party.
We need, oh my God, we're gonna have a whole block party.
The party that we're gonna
it's
have.
gonna be fabulous.
We have to have a party.
Absolutely. So you're on the party committee.
I love a good party.
And Omar.
Wait, can we have a big ribbon and cut it?
Oh my God, we need to.
Oh, of course.
And the big
Oh,
scissors.
the 3
Massive
foot
scissors.
scissors.
We're ready.
There'll be like cheers and laughter.
Like a mile long ribbon.
Yes. Just
You know
all
what we
the way
should
down
have? We should
Broadway.
also, because we're all going to be tempted by that cement with the sidewalks, at least I know I am from my handprint. We should actually have one
I
where we
anticipate
get
some-
to do it.
If I see a gorilla handprint
You're going to know it's mine.
and it has LS underneath it. No. Any other questions?
I have the light fixtures are gorgeous.
Yep.
The color temperature's all wrong. Can you revamp that or something, like cooler color?
The color temperature is in some cases standardized because it has to have a certain lumen for it to be qualifying as street level lighting. I don't know the color of it right now. I can definitely look it up. We recently did with the engineering consultant, we finalized the lighting plan. So I can tell you what the color
It
is.
just looks like they missed the mark.
I completely understand. Like it's like at home, like the fluorescent lighting. Like I can't deal with it. Like I like
That's
softer
what
yellow.
Talking about is the bluish tinted light versus a more yellow warm.
I remember us talking about this, and I remember us leaning towards something more aesthetic. But let me confirm that.
Okay.
But just while we're on that topic, what they're going to look like is it's going to be who knows the lighting fixtures on Beach Street? Has anybody seen those?
Yes.
They're those sort of tall, kind of Victorian, kind of maybe like black steel type things with it's ornamental, and then it's got a little bit of like a pedestrian light kind of hanging off one of the poles. I should have included one in the slides, I'm really sorry. But they're going to retain the historical integrity of this historic district. And so those will be big ones so that they illuminate the roadway, and then there'll be actually pedestrian level lighting. So the way that Broadway looks today, it's quite dark at night. It's going to be much lighter, which we heard is a major safety improvement and also a perception sort of thing. And also just makes it feel like it's open for business at night a little bit more. So
Can we paint those wooden things that are around the trees
you
and
can-
put lights on them?
That's a good question. I feel like the beautification committee should bring that question. Which
I'll
are
talk
you
to them.
going to let them know? Okay, great.
Can you tell us about flood prevention measures with the new utilities?
Yeah.
And,
So the new utilities that have gone into the ground, which in this case will be dropping some additional catch basins, which are those metal grates that go into the roadway. So we will be improving the surface conditions and the sort of drainage that happens kind of on the crown of the roadway if you took a slice through it. But also there's just much more capacity now that DPW has come through and done that utility work. You've probably seen work where it's happened and there's still a ponding issue. That may happen with really intense rainstorms, but we're pretty confident that all of this work is addressing almost all of the ponding and drainage issues of the roadway.
Okay. This extends beyond this district, but are we aiming to get some of the utility poles underground, but to sort of phase out telephone poles and put all that stuff underground, or is that not a priority?
So I believe that some of the work that DPW did was to bring in some infrastructure for underground utilities where possible. The philosophy is sort of out on like, that is an aesthetic improvement. In some cases it makes the maintenance a lot more challenging. I think that what we are doing is decluttering some of the assets that are up and down the roadway by actually combining the pedestrian and the cobra heads, which are those ones that hang over like this, together.
Okay.
So that reduces some of the clutter.
Frees up the sidewalk.
It frees up the sidewalk. So I do think that when all is said and done, especially with now the provision of the cement sidewalks with sort of the brick alignment here, it's gonna feel and probably just look. We'll also be addressing a lot of those tree pits that have not been filled in. So it's definitely going to look a lot less cluttered when we're done, which will be a nice improvement.
Can you just go over the schedule again?
Yep. And the thing here is that this is not the last meeting that we're gonna have. We will definitely be doing a kickoff. We'll be doing another meeting to kick off the construction, and at that point we'll have a schedule from the contractor that'll be a lot more granular, so that you'll be able to kind of see like maybe where they're going to be at certain times. But generally, right now we're wrapping up design with Mass DOT. We're hoping that that wraps up this winter, and then we need to do some work in the spring to coordinate with property owners that will need to access some of their property to pour those sidewalks. But what we're targeting for is an advertisement date, and that's kind of the world of Mass DOT and construction projects, but that just means it's going out to bid. Construction contractors can respond to that bid, so they'll be responding to that within the month of December.
2026?
Yep.
So is nothing happening downtown?
Correct. Nothing.
Is it quiet? It's a quiet year?
It's a year of quiet. Yep. Yep.
Well, technically speaking.
Yep. We thought that that was a good break, so we can all like take a deep breath, regulate ourselves, because Lord knows it was very dysregulating to have all of this going on for so many years, but it was very needed, so.
And I've been living downtown by Metro for like 6 years, but I'm leaving, moving cross town.
Okay.
But the construction is one thing, and now it just looks so gross.
Mm-hmm.
I know you say it's beautification, but it's also like if we wanted to do something, what is really like the path?
Yeah. So there's no capital funds allocated for, further beautifying it as a temporary measure.
Yeah.
I think that if throughout this year people want to bring vibrancy to it, I would say pathways through the beautification committee or through arts and culture. These are some ways that we could maybe try and program these spaces to just make it feel a little bit more vibrant. I know that many of the construction pieces are still not all the way cleaned up. That will certainly help a bit as well. But again, we need to be thoughtful about the efficiency and the use of our funds. And yes, the year of quiet may also be a year of less than aesthetic, but we're definitely wanting to hear ideas. And I do think that if we can tap some of those discretionary grants or some of that money for the downtown to do some work, I'm sure that we would love to hear those suggestions, and then we can map out what's feasible. Okay?
And there's always guerrilla art.
That's right.
Yeah.
Does the quietness also include the bridge?
Oh, like the work that's been happening. So separate assets, and I know that that
Okay.
bridge work is very disruptive. That work is still going on. I don't think that's wrapping up for at least, I think the last time I talked to them was like another like year and a half of that. But I think that some of the major work that they've had to do is sort of wrapping up, but it feels like they've been
Okay.
working on that bridge forever. I can't make them go
Yeah.
faster, unfortunately.
I live right next to it.
Yeah, they do move though. Like you're gonna, like there's some relief in your future and then that will be done, I think within the next year and a half, but you can't quote me on that, I can look that up. Okay, I'm
Alright.
sorry about that. I think about you guys all the time and I'm like, that's a lot, you know,
Yeah,
so.
like I'm on Chestnut, so it's like in my backyard, like I haven't been able to go into my backyard for like 2 years. It's crazy.
I'm sorry about
And
that.
the noise is from like 7 in the morning until 7 p.m. So it's,
I really do feel for you
Bad.
and I'm sorry for that.
thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thanks for, do you have another question?
No.
Oh, you sure?
Through them all.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
reach out to me if you have any questions, but we will be putting this up on the city website. We'll list some contact information there, and we'll go from there. All right?
Thank you so much, Ben,
Thank you.
and everybody.